I'm 39 and happily child-free, but every so often I'll wonder, is it true? Like, do you have to have kids to have a life that's worth living? Just you gotta have so many kids. Like, is it true? And then I found the subreddit, Regretful Parents, and I have learned it is not true. And if you're on the fence about having kids, or if you've decided not to have kids, but occasionally you're like, is this the right decision? Go to that subreddit, because you will learn there are a shit ton of parents who regret their children.
Welcome back to my series where I read messages from regretful parents. I did receive this as a direct message, and I do have permission to share it here on TikTok. I was always on the fence about whether or not I wanted children. I knew it was not something I needed in the way that some people do. But coming from a big family and marrying into another, it was something that was expected of me. I was always told that my indifference to children was simply because they weren't mine. And once I had my own kids, I'd see that any fears or hesitations I had were unfounded. I was always told it was something I'd get over. About 2 years after we got married, my husband and I started trying to get pregnant. It didn't happen easily and wound up turning into years of fertility treatments and 2 miscarriages. I told my husband that if what we were trying didn't work, I was not willing to put myself through IVF. Instead of supporting my decision, he would dismissively say, "We'll see," and implied that it was a deal breaker if I didn't do everything humanly possible to see this through. Truth be told, I was worried about getting pregnant for a lot of reasons. One, because my husband was such a workaholic, and I worried that he'd prioritize his job over his family. I made it clear that I wanted our kids to have an actual father, unlike his, who thought that providing a paycheck and doing absolutely nothing else counted as being a good father. We had several conversations about my expectations of him as a parent, especially because I was so unsure of how much I actually wanted to be one. But he insisted he did, and 2 weeks after we accepted an out-of-state relocation for his job, I found out I was pregnant. We moved just weeks before I gave birth to our son. And as if a relocation at 8 months pregnant wasn't stressful enough, the company I worked for went back on their promise to let me stay on as a remote worker. They let me work right up until my due date and then locked me out of the system, telling me to contact them if and when you find daycare, despite knowing that daycare had never been part of my plan. And even if it had, they'd just taken away my means to pay for it. I had horrific PPD, and to this day, I have never felt worse. My son was a miserable baby with terrible colic and acid reflux. He slept only in 1-hour stretches and cried the rest of the time. My thyroid was out of whack, but no one wanted to see me before the 6-week mark, so I dropped down to 96 pounds and couldn't make enough breast milk. I also had a pinched nerve in my back that made walking painful, wasn't sleeping, could barely find time to eat, and the worst part was I was 100% alone. My husband got 2 weeks of paternity leave, and that was it. He went back to work as if I wasn't a shell of myself, being terrorized by my hormones and an endlessly crying baby. He was awful to me to boot. After being awake with the baby all night, I would beg him to stay home a little longer so I could get some sleep. And he would say, "You already lost your job. I can't lose mine." One day, upon coming home to find both me and the baby crying, no dinner on the table, and me still in my pajamas, he said, "I don't understand why everyone else can do this, but you can't." I felt like he'd physically slapped me. When I begged him to let me hire someone to help with the baby, he replied, "Why? So you can really do nothing all day?" I was so angry at him, but so angry with myself for believing him when he promised to be a good dad. I wished that he had been honest with me and with himself, that his need to be a father was more about his need to appear perfect than it ever was about a desire to be a parent. He didn't want to be a father. He wanted to be able to say he was a father. But by the time he proved that, it was too late to turn back. I was a married single parent, and my own husband was letting me drown. I honestly think we'd be divorced if he'd not had his own bout with depression a couple of years after mine. He realized how horribly he treated me and that I wasn't weak or exaggerating what I'd gone through. He's a much better partner now, but I can't say I don't still harbor resentment for having to shoulder the burden of parenting alone for so long. No matter how much I love my son, my life isn't my own. My husband has never once had to consult with me before scheduling an appointment. He has never been sick and had to drag our son to the walk-in with him because he had no one to watch him. He has never spent all day in the hot sun making magical memories only to come home exhausted and still cook dinner. I have done all of the above, and there's no end in sight. Everyone who told me my fears about parenthood were unfounded was dead wrong. And the worst part is, I think they knew it.
Hey, hola, hola, mis amores, ¿cómo están? Hi, my loves. How are you doing today? Here, we're going to talk a little bit more about regretful parents. This is a really, really good and interesting topic to me because actually, I'll say this. I'll say it in this way. It's kind of terrifying because I could have easily I could have easily been one of those women that fell for it. That fell for all of the gaslighting from society. Oh, just have a kid. Well, what's your purpose if you don't? When I was younger, what's your purpose if you don't have a male and you don't have kids? Oh my goodness, my life would be horrible. At least for me personally, at this point. So I really, really feel for so many ladies that get themselves in these situations without understanding that it actually is a lot of work to have kids, and it sucks. Because once you have the kid, that's it. You don't have a life anymore. You're done. You're done. No matter how much you try to self-care and stuff like that, you can do that, but your new life becomes the kiddos, right? So making such a big decision such as that without the reality of what it actually entails, well, that truly sucks, right? How about the red flag he wanted to force IVF? Yeah, no kidding. She never left, though. She just kind of stayed. I really just don't understand. It's wild to me. Wild. This made my blood run cold. He doesn't even like her, let alone love her. Hope she's okay. Yeah, I don't know. She chose to stay regardless of him forcing her to go through all these things. So how can she realistically say that she didn't know he would be a bad parent? Well, he can't even be a good husband to you. How can you imagine that this person could possibly be or even try to be a good parent to a child? You literally said that you recognize that. Maybe she didn't recognize it in the moment, but you recognized, from what I heard, it sounded like she did recognize it in the moment. But maybe I might be wrong about that context. But if not, it's like she recognized that, hey, this guy is threatening me with IVF, even though I don't want to do it. Well, that's not a good person, ma'am. That's not a good male. That's not a good husband. Then why would you expect for him to be a good parent? He can't even be a good husband to you, who is already here, much less a good parent to a child that isn't even here yet. Right? That's why I'm so excited about this 4B movement, because I think women need to get their self-worth back and their self-respect back, because they thought that they could find it in other males, and we're starting to quickly find out that it's actually worse. Like, the male species is not there for your happiness. They literally, most of them in the 90th percentile, don't even like women. A lot of them are literally straight up just gay, and so many of them won't even tell you that. That's how much they hate women. They won't even be honest with you or themselves that they just like other males. They'll keep sleeping with you, give you all types of diseases, and that's true hate right there, y'all. I want to hire someone to help me with a baby. Why? So you can sit around and do nothing. Those are divorce. I know. Goodness, I would have been gone way before that. Like, what? Your vision of the future does not even align. You don't even want a kid. You have all these doubts, and you still brought this kid here having all these doubts and knowing that this guy cannot be a good parent because you're choosing to you're choosing to try to protect your non-existent ego because you realize you did not choose the right person, you did not choose the right partner, and instead of just admitting that, you don't want to be wrong, so you stayed there. Wild. I feel the most bad for the child. It's very, very unfortunate that children have to be brought up in this way. I would much rather regret not having kids than regret having them. Can you imagine? Exactly. Thank you for this series. It is so important. She is so much more gracious towards that man than I would have been. Wow. Wild. Where my adult children of grateful parents at? Oh, goodness. Divorce, split custody. That way he has to take care of him equally. And she has some time to herself. Bingo. Bingo. Exactly. That's what the law is there for. You divorce, you split the custody. He has no choice. And you get self-care back. That's it. Very, very simple, very, very easy. I got divorced because I told him if I was going to do it alone, I'd rather be alone. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. So many women suffering. Don't forget to smash that like button. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button for me if you haven't already. If you're new to the channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. I post women-centered content on a daily basis. Different topics like this one. If you're interested, if it's a vibe for you, make sure to smash the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and let's see what other ladies have to say.
So I'm scrolling through the Regretful Parents subreddit, which has always been kind of a fascinating subreddit that I try not to read too often because it makes me sad. It's hard to see people regretting such permanent choices. This one says, I love my daughter, but this isn't for everyone. I miss my space, a quiet house. I miss my old body. I miss the person I was before her. Being a parent is the hardest thing ever, and your kids will never understand how hard it is unless they become parents themselves. There are so many things about my life right now that I love so much that I wouldn't trade for the world. Of my quiet apartment in the city, I love my freedom. This is why we deserve more comprehensive education on what it is and what it really means to be a parent, so people aren't left surprised and disappointed that it isn't everything that they thought it would be.
Number one reason I don't want kids. I just want to worry about me and put me first. I don't want additional responsibilities and stress. Amen. Child-free people know how hard it is. It's like, period. That thing is super hard and it never stops. It's never ending and it's extremely hard. That's why we're child-free. We raise our siblings and we listen to the regretful parents. So we know, right? I can't even tell you how many nieces and nephews I have, and for all of them, I have been there through their growing up. So I know. I'm the proudest auntie ever, but that's about it. I'm not going any further than that. As of right now, being a parent is the hardest thing ever for women. Oosh. I could never have a child. I would just feel so much resentment for what they took from me, and they don't deserve that. I feel the same way. The fact that I think I would regret having kids is risen enough for me to not have kids. I think the reason people are disappointed is because it takes a village, but you typically end up doing it all alone, whether married or not, whilst working. Yeah, but that it takes a village mentality does not work in the modern world, because why would a village help you raise your own kid, right? Because I guess in the modern world, everything is so individualistic now. Back in those days, you really needed to rely on each other for crops, for work, for protection, for taking care of children. Now everything is a lot more individualistic, and you really, at this point, it's cheaper if you're just by yourself, right? So I don't know. It doesn't work in the modern day, unfortunately. To be honest, I think it's the lack of village. We are so self-centered in this country, and that's part of what makes parenting so difficult. Yeah, that's true. It's true. But back in the day, it was give and take because, if you're helping taking care of kids, you might be getting help with like labor or crops, farming. Nowadays, why would anyone help take care of your kids and get nothing in return? It really doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? Especially with the way modern society is constructed, right? It kind of doesn't make sense to think that you're entitled to that help. I'm not having kids ever. I nannied for 15 years and all the moms told me such sad stories. Oh my God. I have to imagine nannying is the number one most effective form of birth control. Oh yes. Oh my gosh. Taking care of kiddos like for an extended period of time, or buy yourself a baby puppy. You'll wake up real quick from whatever. If you're feeling like, oh my God, maybe I should try you'll wake up super quickly if you get yourself a baby puppy. Yep, that will teach you a thing or two. Also, I think unless they become parents themselves is a big reason parents push for you to have kids. They want you to understand. Yeah, they want you to suffer. Wild. That's wild. Especially as a woman, it seems so impossible to retain your personhood as a parent. It's a complete nightmare. Yep. And then not to mention the process you have to actually go through during the pregnancy, how it demolishes your body as a woman. And then you get there, you arrive, you give birth, and then it sucks even more.
Well, if you're unaware, there is a subreddit called Regretful Parents. I've thought about whether it's my place to go on that subreddit, but because people have this belief, I think it's really important to talk about the fact that regretful parents exist. So here's just some snippets from the sub. I didn't think I'd get PPD this bad. Even though my baby is only 10 months old, not a day goes by where I don't want to disappear or hurt myself. I'm in therapy and on medication, but I don't think I'll ever be myself again. I'm just an empty shell. Being called mama irritates the soul out of me. My child is 6, and I wish I understood that my PPD was a sign to adopt him out. Now it's too late for me. The bad feelings never went away. I can't do this. I wasn't cut out for this. I feel like I'm pouring all of myself into a bottomless pit that gives thanks by screaming furiously at me. I didn't want to keep him, but my partner's parents convinced me to. Any breaks I get from my son, I spend dreading when I'll have to take him back. If my kids were not my kids, I would cross the road to avoid them. I have nothing left to give. I can't stand my 14-year-old. I wish she was never born. I hate being her mom. I hate coming home every day to her. I don't know how to accept this is my life now without wishing every day I hadn't ruined it with a baby. I'm just alone with this terrible toddler, living paycheck to paycheck, wondering how I could have messed up my life so much. A year into motherhood, I go to bed every single night dreading the next day. Never in a million years would I have guessed I could be this unhappy. There hasn't been a single day in an entire year that I've enjoyed. I yearn for the life I used to have. I miss it so much it hurts. I don't even see glimpses of myself anymore. My anxiety runs my world. I've completely lost the old me. I wish I had known that every day would start with cortisol surging through my body before the sun rises, my nerves shot before breakfast time. The best part of my day is when my kids go to school. Right now I'm locked in the bathroom trying to recoup so I don't start yelling while my 5-year-old does the exact opposite of what I've asked them to do from the other side of the door. This life is relentless and I'm so fucking exhausted. This is from a post called For the Fence Sitters. You know that feeling you get at the tail end of winter when it feels like you haven't had the sun on your face for ages? It feels like it's been cold forever and every morning feels gray, and you look forward to spring when you won't have to put on your boots and coat to scrape the ice off your car while you freeze your ass off. Imagine trying to explain that feeling to someone who spent their whole life in the tropics. You can complain about the cold, but it's not really the cold. It's not the snow either. And having to put on boots in the morning or drive the car on icy roads, none of these things seem like a big deal in isolation. Even combined, they don't seem overwhelming to an outsider. Anybody can do winter for a while. It's really the bitter endlessness of it all. Waking up to it day after goddamn day. The petty frustrations that together are more than the sum of their parts. That's what being a parent has been like for me. Only instead of being able to look forward to spring, the only thing on the horizon is more winter. Decades of winter. I know that sounds melodramatic, but I swear it's the best analogy I can think of. It's bleak, and it can be harder still knowing that you chose this. You could be sitting in Mexico under the hot sun, salsa dancing and sipping margaritas, but instead, you picked 18 years of winter, possibly more. And that decision can seem very, very stupid when you're shoveling your driveway while sub-zero winds blow snow in your face. So yeah, there are parents who regret it.
I love my child and have zero regrets. I wouldn't change anything. However, no one told me a couple of things, and I feel compelled to share them. 1. Motherhood has been one of the most difficult and loneliest parts of my life. I never realized that I would eventually lose contact with almost every friend I have ever made. through loss of my availability to them or time passing. I'm alone. My mother left less than 24 hours after I had my son, and it's been going on 5 years of no contact, which leads me to point 2. Becoming a mother both healed and ripped open trauma I have experienced. It became almost impossible to tolerate or justify my abusive childhood after having my own child. I realized that I would never allow him to be a part of that toxicity or see me abused by them. 3. No one really understands the impact of having a child with a profound disability. My son is autistic. He is nonverbal and over the last year increasingly violent toward me, regardless of therapists, doctors, and medications. I am a single mother who has zero community with a child who has very high support needs. There are no resources and there is no help. I feel like I am a hamster running on a wheel, and it is both a curse and a joy to love another person so much you willingly sacrifice your own needs every minute of your life for years at a time. The one secret thought that I haven't shared with anyone almost 10 years later, I can't remember why I wanted to have children. Did I ever have a reason? I think there should be.
Parents who regret having kids. Why? Some people should not have children even when they desperately want them. My mother intensely regrets having a normal child that actually grew up. My mother wanted babies, not children. She spent the first 30 years of my life ceaselessly punishing me for growing older and taking her baby away from her. We haven't spoken in over 20 years and I still have to hide from her online and IRL to avoid continued punishment. I had friends who regretted having kids. They told me it was the social expectation to get married and have kids. Relatives pressured them into it and I guess they didn't have the strength to do what they wanted. They resented the loss of freedom, the work it takes, the cost. Their kids were horrible, too, due to bad parenting. Some people just shouldn't have kids and they knew they didn't want to but felt obligated. Everyone loses.
Of the most common topics and questions on child free by choice content is the question of regret. People asking, what if you regret not having children? People proclaiming you will regret not having children. For all the child free by choice women out there, please comment on this video and tell me how old you are and whether or not you regret not having kids. And please be honest, if you do regret not having kids, say so. And if you have no regrets about not having kids, please say that as well. And we can kind of do an informal experiment survey poll where we can see with our own eyes what percentage of child-free by choice people actually grow to regret their decision.
32, I will be busy not regretting my choices on the beach in the Maldives. I can't even pronounce that. Next year, it's going to be really hard, but I'll get through it somehow. My question is always, what if you regret your kids? And when they go on about how they could never regret their kids, then I say, okay, well, I believe you. So why don't you believe me? I'm not worried if they believe me or not, because at the end of the day, like, you're pushing me to have kids and live a life that's in your head without even caring what would make me happy. That's where I cut it off. It's like, can't take you seriously. So sorry, not sorry. Different perspective. My mom adopted me in late in life. She thought she was missing out. She tried to unadopt me, and well, we haven't spoken in over 15 years. She regretted her regrets and then hated me. Tough. 41, and I regret the friends I've lost due to parenthood because they're now too busy or moved away to afford a house. Late 30s, I started to wonder if I would someday regret. 48 now, and I don't regret it at all. In fact, it's the best decision I ever made. 39, not only do I not regret it, I have a sense of relief that I chose not to have children and get a sense of almost dread thinking about if I had chosen to have them. 52, zero regrets and constant thankfulness that I made the right choice for myself. 60, and drop to my knees grateful for my tubal ligation. In my 20s, I've enjoyed so much choice and freedom and ease. If I'm alone in a nursing home in my late 80s, I would have lived my best years free. Amen. I need to be able to feel like, wow, like I did everything that I wanted to do exactly how I wanted to do it, and I was just free. I always figured if I decided I wanted to be a mom, I would adopt a kid from foster care. I'm 43 and it hasn't happened yet. Or if I do decide to freeze my eggs, which I was thinking I wouldn't mind doing that, but now I'm hearing really weird things are happening because of the low birth rate. I'm hearing that they're really wanting to push women to do the egg freezing thing even more so that they can keep your eggs. It's strange. Anyways, I don't know. So I might not actually go that route. Especially because I wouldn't be freezing my eggs because I want to get pregnant personally. I'm not interested in that. I would have to get a surrogate to do it because I am 100% and for years have been 100% certain that I'm not interested in going through that process with my own body. Hell no. It's not going to happen. But I'm not interested and I keep waiting for the day that will change and it just hasn't come yet. So 33, very seriously, zero regrets. I just got diagnosed with ADHD in January and I don't want or like kids because of the sensory overload. And it's nice to have some sort of validation and understanding. Yeah, for sure. I love kiddos. They're so freaking cute. The problem that I have most of the time is that I only like them when they're young. I only like them when they're babies. And I don't want them around 24/7. 42, child-free, no regrets. It feels more and more like a blessing to have this much freedom. Oh my gosh, yes. 40, not only no regrets, but I regularly have the thought, I'm so happy with this choice. Usually whenever a situation throws the two lifestyles into sharp relief. Yeah. So all the comments are from child-free people. I haven't even seen any comments from parents saying that they like doing it or someone saying that they regret it. 55 and not a day of regret. Zero regrets. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just logical though, right? If you're not even sure that you want a child, then you probably shouldn't have one. You know what I mean? And it just makes sense to me that you would not end up regretting that because what is there to regret? You didn't do it. Now, if you did it and you weren't sure that you wanted one and you did it and now you're finding out, oh my God, I hate this. Now you really have something to regret, right? Because it's like, you can't give that kid back. Like you can't do anything about this kid being here. So that's when you really have a tough stance, just a tough time, right? But yeah, y'all leave it in the comments below. Let me know what your thoughts are. Don't forget to smash that like button for me. Smash that subscribe button for me. Okay, oh my God. Love you so much. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.